All right, guys. This is DJ Wolf. Of course, the podcast is DJ Wolf Live on YouTube's For All to Hear TV. You know, I'm going to talk about this. I mean, I've heard people talk about it. I've talked about it before, and I think it should revisit again. You know, we don't choose our families. We're just born into them. And for a number of us, many of our families we come from are either from broken homes or dysfunctional families. And I know some people will say, well, what's the difference? Because there is a slight difference. The difference is a broken home is a family that's never had a household structure with a father. A dysfunctional family involves a mother and father within the family or in the family. There are the two heads of the household, where the main head is the father, and you have a mother. But there's a lot of dysfunctionality going on between them, which creates toxicity in the family altogether. Both dysfunctional families and broken home families have very toxic parents. Yes, they do. Difference is, in the dysfunctional family, both of your parents are like that. Could be one or both. Likely most time it's both. Or if you're coming from a broken home, you don't have a father. It's a fatherless home, but the functionality, let me put it like this. The toxicity comes directly from the single parent. And therefore, it's a lot of things that are not really well taken care of in the single family toxic home. Because there's not only head of household, but you have a toxic parent that's running. And anything goes. Anything goes, even with kids in there. And that's the bad part about it. That's the sad part, you know. And nothing says when you get to be a certain age that you got to deal with that mess. Nothing. There's no law that says you have to deal with a toxic family or toxic parents. No law on the planet. You don't want to deal with it? Don't deal with it. If it's to a point where it's making you ill, you know, making you dysfunctional and toxic, you know, go seek help for yourself and for your family if necessary. If they don't want the help, then you gotta move on your own. Like I said, that's once you get to a certain age or whatever, where you can do that. You know, I myself, more than 3 years ago, had to do that. And I can say this. It was to a point I was getting headaches. I was having heart palpitations because I forgot my medicine at the time. And I wasn't feeling well. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even eat, really. It was so bad that I vowed. I said, you know what? When I leave Cleveland, I'm not going to be bothered with these folks no damn more. It's been 3 years. And I can honestly say I still deal with some toxic family members that it got so bad even this past week. I just said, you know what? I had to block the number. I had to do it. I had to block all of them. I mean, all of them have been blocked for quite some time. But this one in particular, I didn't want to have to block them. But I had no choice. It got that bad. I said, sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes you need that air, space, and time to get away from that toxicity, man. Now, it's ultimately up to you if it's something that you have to do. If something you ain't got to do, don't do it. If you don't have to do it, but if it's something that you have to deal with, and it's within reason, that's something you have to deal with. In this case for me, I'm like, I'm just done. I'm done. And the reason why I say that, because I lived around toxicity all my life growing up. All 21 years I lived in Cleveland. You know? And even long after I left, you know, my dad was still around, I still had to deal with all that mess. You know? And once my dad passed away in July of 2019, I thought some of that toxicity would drop off. No, it didn't. It got worse within my family. It got much worse. You know? And that's, as a matter of fact, it not only got much worse within my family, it changed my family altogether. And not for the better. You know? And I got to a point, like I said, I wasn't eating the whole week. The time I was up there, I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. Of course, I was thinking about what happened to my father and all that. And I was running around the whole week. I was having heart palpitations. I could tell my blood pressure was going up to the roof, damn near through the roof. And I actually was in some cases feeling lightheaded. And it almost took a toll on me. It took a toll on me. It really did. To the point I was like, I gotta get the hell out of here. Because I actually was gonna stay another week, you know, to sort out things. And my siblings have said, you know, after I took care of all the funeral expenses and all of that, which cost me a nice fortune, and I had to borrow money to do that. But I took care of it with the lack of no one else in my family help but just myself. They decided they wanted to take over the other things that I was willing to get involved with. But when they said that, okay, fine, maybe I'll be responsible. Nope. 3 years later, they didn't do any responsibility. Boy, you better watch your damn. They didn't take any responsibility on nothing out here. Not nothing. None. 0 responsibility. Zero responsibility. You know? To a point, it's just like, you know, it's getting really ridiculous out here. Yeah. They took none. Didn't do anything. Didn't do anything regarding the after effects of that. Nothing. Just sat on it. You know. Then other family members, you know, trying to tell you what to do that didn't help at all. You know, and I'm done. You know, you're an adult like I'm an adult. You know, and I'm like, you need to step up and be responsible for things you need to do that I did that you didn't do, and do the things you need to do that needed to bring up the rear to help out. You know, but prior to that, they were toxic towards me anyway. You know, even after I did all I did. And this was after years of me, you know, sending money to family members and stuff like that. And one time, I had one family member, I sent his money. They went home, cashed the check, didn't think nothing about it. They ain't thinking nothing about it to even tell me they even got the money. And what I'm saying, I done cashed that check and rolled. I done cashed that check and spent money. I'm like, really? And this is what I'm talking about. Just ungrateful like a motherfucker. Excuse my French. And you know, that was 2017. And I vowed never to do that again with them. And I didn't. I don't even send my card anymore. I said, forget it. And they've been nasty with me ever since. Now, that was 5 years ago. Of course, my mom told me, you need to forgive. Nah, ain't no forgiveness after I do all that. After I did all of that, over the years, I spent the kind of money I spent with my family, all my family, and they act ungrateful towards me and disrespectful towards my family unjustly for no reason, I'm done. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm done. No. Like I said, there's no law saying you had to deal with a toxic family. None. And you don't have to deal with that. You really don't. You know? That's the reason, like I said, me not wanting to deal with a toxic family is the reason I left Cleveland. Some 36 years ago. Yeah, sure did. 36 years ago I left Cleveland. It was on February 12th, 1986. 3 years after I graduated high school. A year after I finished, well, a little over a year after I finished, less than a year after I finished job. And I was like, I was done. I said I was glad to be leaving. I told my dad that one night. He knew I was going military. And he just made some disparaging remarks, man. And I just got upset. He slapped me. Instead of him saying, son, I'm proud you got doing something for yourself and blah, 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 and blah, 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 He was just being sarcastic and all of that. But I don't want to, I don't intend to talk ill about that. I just wanted to show a reason why a lot of kids, young men, young boys, don't want to deal with stuff like that. Because when you're trying to make something of yourself and you got parents who don't really support you, but just antagonize and talk about you, man, you feel very resented and rejected, and it makes you feel sad, like, you know what, when I do this, I ain't fucking with y'all no more. I'm done. I'm leave y'all behind. But I was told later on, I forgot where I came from, although I was going home every year. Matter of fact, that one year that my dad told me that, I went home 5 times that year and gave money. And then you sitting around now, oh, you forgot where you came from. Oh, really? So why would I go home 5 times in 1 year, and then you come there and then you on the phone one night talking about you forgot I forgot where I came from after I've been there 5 times and they give you money? Really? Yeah. Like I never go visit. And I was visiting all the time. I was probably visit Cleveland more then than I do now. A lot more than, matter of fact. And I wasn't making no real money at the time when I did it. And I was thinking about 1 year. I remember 1 year, true story. My dad needed some money. I sent him a check for some money. Not a whole lot of money. It was enough. It was enough that that should have supported him for a little bit, at least for groceries and a couple of bills. And he complained about it. Hey, what's this? What's this? Hey, what's this? He expected me to send him a whole wad of money. And he always complained about. It's weird because I did okay. And he always complained about it wasn't enough. Like, I'll give you another example, but let me get to this example first, because he complained about it, and of course he didn't ask money. It was it was like 3 or 4 kids. It was about 4 of us actually. But he didn't ask other kids for money. He asked me for money. I gave him what I had. Of course, I had a family, right? My son was still, my son was in elementary school, And he actually was in private school at the time, but he was in elementary school nevertheless. And I had to take care of him. His expenses was not exactly that cheap for one child, but I had to take care of him. I had to make sure that bills paid, roof over his head, all that. So I sent my dad the money, and that money that I sent him could have went on a lot of other things. Matter of fact, at the time when I sent him the money, I had to pay a car note. That was the car note that I gave him the money from. And I got behind, a couple of payments behind my cousin, trying to help him out. So go show you, my money was stretching thin at the time. And then he sit there and insulted me. I ain't enough, son. I ain't enough. I was like, well, you ask other kids. Well, so-and-so, she got her, she got her kids. I was like, I got kids too. I said, I gave him a daggone car note. I gave him my car note money to support you. And you still complain. Yeah. You got your family, you and your wife. Well, ain't got nothing to do with nothing. But what you had was a bunch of excuses about why you didn't have somebody else. Like I was the only kid you had. I was the only kid you raised. And we all was raised in the same household. Yeah. Yeah. But because you didn't want to ask and you want to swallow your pride, and you didn't want her to think, you know, any money. But she already knew it anyway. That's how I found out. You know, that's the crazy part. That's exactly how I found out. I found out from her. You know, and then she told me. Because he wasn't looking to try to get anything out. He was looking to try to get it from me. You know, like I didn't have any family. You know, but I did it. I did it anyway. And then I got an accident the same day. Stressing about that. You know. So then I went and got, I borrowed some money on my 401k. Something I probably regretted doing. I get that. I'm going to tell you about that. This is going to be even more interesting. So I took some money from my 401k because he said he needed a certain amount of money. Gave him that money. You know. Told me, well, really, when I gave him $300, I still wasn't enough. He needed some now. But I gave him what I had. You know. I gave him what I had. I gave him all I could give him. I gave him what I needed to give him. My money was stretched out thin. I didn't have that kind of money. You know. Yet you had other children, you could adult children you could have asked that money for, and you didn't do it. Like it was my fault. So next year, I was able to get some money, borrow some money on my 401k. This was back in the 90s, late 90s. I wasn't making no money then. So I got some money on my 401k. Gave him that money. You know what he told me? Oh, son, that's a little late to give me that money. Well, I got it when I was able to get it. So in essence, I gave him a total of, I don't even want to tell you how much, because I don't want you to think that I built like a money bank. But it was a nice little chunk of change. Enough where, he shouldn't have to really want it that much from me at the time. But all he did was complain. That's toxic. It wasn't even a thank you, son. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being there for your father. It wasn't enough. No, he had so much pride, and this is my point. He had so much puffed up pride in him that he couldn't even thank me for the money I gave him. And that came directly out my hard working 401k that I invested in to help him out. Because by that time he was out of work. I'm gonna tell you that in a second. Now my sister at the time, I wouldn't have done that. But then again, she didn't help pay for the funeral. She didn't pay for the funeral either. I did. She basically she didn't do anything. She didn't do shit. Alright? Never was about doing shit for family either. But I did. Even sent her money and stuff for Christmas and stuff like that. Sent her a nice little change for her 50th birthday. And then complained about it. About me. 3 years ago. I said, it pissed me off. I just had to tell you that. So that's why, and then people tell me I shouldn't be cutting off my family. I should be done. No, I ain't got nothing to tell you. We have nothing to talk about because this mess didn't come from me. It came from y'all. And that's the point I'm trying to make to you guys, ladies and gentlemen. When you down for your family all these years, and they sit there and do nothing but complain, even when you do well for them, even when you try to do the right thing, even when you do the right thing, it's not enough. And it wears on you. I'm going to get to that in a second. But, so, let me get back to what my dad talked about. And we was in a restaurant. This is like probably about a couple years later. And, he was bragging about he knew this guy who I supposedly went to school with, played NFL. I know a guy with the same name as him. I didn't know if that was him or not. It might have been. I don't remember. Anyway, so we got to talking stuff, and he was like saying, complaining about I got money problems, blah blah blah. This is from a guy who had received a substantial amount of money from me on my 401k 2 years before. And then he said, you know what he said? I could have had a football. I could have had a football player for a son. Let me tell y'all something, ladies and gentlemen. My dad said a lot of fucked up shit to me over the years. Now, don't get me wrong. He was a good father. He was a great provider and all that. I give him credit for that. Whatever I needed from him, I give him credit for that. He was always there. But after me trying to do the right thing for him at the time, as a son, to not only let him know how grateful I was to him for that, and bend over backwards to be there for him, and for him to say that 2 years after I did that, I ain't gonna lie, that was one of the most hurtful things I ever heard, man. And I flew up there on top of that in the dead of winter to go visit, out of my pocket. That was the most hurtful thing I ever heard, man. It was to a point, later on, I broke down and cried, man. I said, all that trouble I went through, I went on my 401k for your ass to make sure that your house didn't go under. And that hurt me so bad. I mean, it really hurt me. It hurt me it hurt me to my motherfucking heart. And I don't mean because of folks. It stung that bad. It stung. It still stings. Now, even though he's passed away and all of that, God rest his soul. And I really, really hope that that he receives eternal heaven because he deserves it. But that comment after I did through all I did still hurts me. It still resonates with me. And this is one reason why I say, you know what? Forgiveness only goes but so far. It has to, for me. Because I've been there too many times. And mind you, I did forgive my father. I really did. Even years after he said that, I did forgive him before he died. I did. And that's one thing I definitely did. I told him I love him. I made sure of that. But he was a toxic parent. He had a lot of toxic in him. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, folks. And I don't mean to talk bad about, because he was a good person. He really was. Great provider. But he was a toxic person. It was another side of him. I'm just talking about another side of him. That's all. But it did hurt me when I heard it, when he told me about that, man. It was like I wasn't good enough. And I had always felt that way all my life. From the time I was a young child all the way to the time I was an adult. No matter what I did. No matter what I did. No matter what I did good with my own family. Just wasn't depressed. Not at all. Not in the least. Might have been some jealousy involved. I always say that too, but that's another story. But my thing is that when you exhausted everything you have and had to give it to your family, and I gave away, I ain't gonna lie, I gave up a lot of resources to my family. A lot of resources to all my family members. A lot of resources. You don't even want to know how much that resource. You don't even know how much of the resources that I gave to them. It will blow your mind. Yeah. And that was resources I could have kept to myself for my own family. And I didn't. But I was doing it because I know it was the right thing to do for my family. And even though it was the right thing to do for my family, it was the wrong way that they carried me after I did it for them. Like it wasn't good enough. Like it wasn't enough. Like it didn't matter after you got it. So I'm going to say this to y'all. If you were riding like I was for my family all them years, I did everything for them that I could and bent over backwards all the times, and they still was ungrateful like I don't know what. After you did everything and they keep doing the same toxic mess upon you, saying toxic stuff, doing toxic stuff, acting toxic towards you, cut them off. Cut them off. When you go through what I just told you about with my family, and they continue to be ungrateful and say nasty things about you, even talk to the point you want to talk about your family, really, for no reason, unprovoked, completely unprovoked. Cut them off. I have no problem saying that. I know some people, you can't cut your family off. You can't choose your family. Yeah, you can actually. You get to a certain age, you can choose them. You can choose, like somebody said on YouTube I was watching this morning. You can choose to go to you can choose your family. You can't choose them one that you came from, because that is your origin, your original family. But you can choose to go to another family. You can choose to deal with a family who's not toxic. You can. Who the hell want to be around a toxic family? I don't care if they're your original family or not, your biological or not. Don't care. If they ain't gonna be right when you treat them right, cut them off. I had no problem saying that. I'm so taken off from some of my other family members, especially one particular. I'm ready to block the number right now. Well, I brought block on myself. I ain't blocking my home phone yet, but I'm getting ready to do it. It has got to be that bad. It's just like anything I ever did all these years didn't matter at all. Nothing ever did matter. Nothing. And even trying to help them recently, they got nasty. I said, you know what? I'm done. Don't call me for another thing, for another dime, for anything else. That's how toxic they got. It's gotten that bad, folks. I'm just to a point, I'm just no longer dealing with toxic folks ever again. Ever again. Nope. Ain't having it. Why should you, man? Life's too short to be dealing with toxic folks, man. It is. It's way too short. Way too short for the bullshit. Life is way too short for dealing with toxic bullshit with toxic folks. Toxic grown folks at that. Or anybody else. Life is too short to not be able to enjoy your life without all that drama. No wonder Mary J. Blige be singing them songs that she be singing. You know what? And I'm be honest, I don't even blame her. I don't blame her at all. I fully understand. Because I've heard that she had a hard time growing up. I've heard that. And some of her songs are very telling about it. So, like I said, I can understand. Which is probably why she's one of my favorite artists. Because when it comes to songs about hurt and pain, she keeps it 100. I love it. I love it for that. I really do. But, like I said, hey, don't ever think that you can't choose another family if your family ain't gonna act right with you, especially if they're that toxic. You know. But I would say, based on what I went through, yeah, after all I did, yeah. If you the person that did that for your family like I did for mine, yeah, cut them off. You'll feel better. You won't regret it. At least I don't. I'm out.